what? We're live now. You got something to say? You have something to say? Or are you just gonna sit there? Hi, everybody. It's Sunday, April 25th, 2021. Cloudy, overcast day, and it's kind of cold at my part of the world. Hope you're having better, warmer, sunnier weather than I am. And apparently that we're supposed to have for the rest of the week. So I thought I would just go online and be social. Say what's up. Hey. What? Let's see what's happening. Oh, I'm happening. I'll just keep that there for now. Oh, wait, maybe not, because you know what always happens with me, huh? What, Gypsy? There, if I raise it, now hopefully you won't get see what's happening. Let's check some news. Okay. We'll see if there's anything interesting in the alternative news today. Hey, if you're online, why don't you drop me a little comment, send me a message, say hi, and then we can talk about stuff. In the meantime, I'm going to try to see if I can find some interesting stuff to look at. Well, I hope that cat stays quiet. See, I'm not even paying attention. Okay. See, we're reading it all wrong. Okay. Anything here? Bless you. Dolphins. That's cool. If you want to take a look, I'm looking at SOTT.net. Here, I'll put the link in the comments. So, hang on. There. Uh-oh. Well, hang on a second. I have to get my headset. Well, maybe not. Okay, let's see if I could get this working. Gypsy, this is not an invitation for you to come and try to be nice. Okay. Just to test the audio. Where are you coming in? Oh yeah. To get that, I need that. So hang on. Here. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Let's try this again. There we go. Okay, so I got the audio working. And now I could get on with what I was doing. So hang on a second. Let me see what this is all about here.
Oh, he's cute.
Because you see, I put a picture up of a squirrel, a video. Hang on, I'm going to answer it back. Yeah, he's pretty cute, huh? I was feeding him just before I came in a few minutes ago. He looked hungry, so I gave him some sunflower seeds and I gave him some peanuts. Bye. These kids. Okay. So now I can put that there. And I can go back to what I was doing here. Okay. Okay, it looks like a pretty slow news day going on here. Nothing interesting, nothing interesting. In the meantime, I've been looking at a lot of different videos of people talking about, no, it's not just me, a lot of people talking about prehistory and all that. And especially all these guys that are into this J.R. or whatever Tolkien guy and whatever book he wrote, and talking about, oh yeah, people into this Buddhism stuff with cities under the earth. Yeah, I want to take a look at that in a minute. Because Atlantis and all the tales of And it's like, there used to be a land in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and that's why it's called Atlantis. And they all swear up and down that there used to be this land surrounded somewhere, an island, whatever they want to call it, high technology, and then all of a sudden, went crashing through the waves in the sea. And there's no trace of it. Oh man, this stuff is really laughable at this point. I'll tell you why. Hang on. I mean, what they're saying, it's true. Yeah, it was a civilization, high technology, advanced and all that, right here in the middle, and then it sank, and then here are these people, and they're looking, searching, but I don't see no land, and there's no trace of no island anywhere. There's no trace of no island. No, there's no trace of no landmass that could have been right centered here. No trace. Right. But they all swear up and down about this flood that swallowed up the land and the people and the technology, and through some type of communal amnesia that we forgot where we came from. And these are the progenitors of all the ancient civilizations going back Mesopotamia and Greece and Egypt and la-di-da-di-da. Where is this land? Where is this land? Let's see. Well, I'll show you where this land is. Okay. You see this stitch running up and down the Atlantic from North Pole all the way down to the South Pole? Right? Okay. The people that tell you that this happened and pushed the continents apart millions of years ago, well, there's no geological proof of it being millions of years ago. There is geological proof that it happened thousands of years ago. And as a matter of fact, everything that people pertain to the legends of Atlantis and all that could be one of two things, or both. History has a habit of repeating itself. So it could be very well that Legends of Atlantis is simply everything that happened from the time between Adam and Eve getting kicked out of the garden, right, and all the way up to the flood. And that whole civilization basically was Atlantis, and that the earth was one big piece because, according to current scientific models, not ancient history that was written in textbooks that were being taught in schools and universities around the world, but that the continents were stitched together some few thousand years ago, and as a result of the comet impact and all that other stuff that happened and caused the breaking open of the deep and whatever gravitational tides. I don't know if this is what happened between the Earth and the Moon, because there's obviously evidence of damage on both sides. See, the side that we see of the Moon, heavily damaged and cratered. And our side, well, damaged and cratered and split apart pretty much, to the point where, the continents pushed apart, weight of the water, weight of the ice, and all that stuff. Because they all agree on, it used to be one big landmass. See, the sea is shallow. The seas are shallow here, so this used to all be connected. Ireland, England, and mainland Europe used to all be connected millions of years ago. And here in the South Pacific, all this, where is it? New Zealandia, all this, Zealandia, whatever you want to call it. Now we're seeing the tops of the mountains of what used to be, all this used to be land, all that. But it got pushed apart, ripped apart by tidal forces. In India too. And they swear up and down, there used to be a sea. There used to be a sea right here in between the Mongolian desert and India and the Himalayas. And that when these intelligent beings saw the cataclysms, they ran into the caves and went underground and It's all underground connected with all sorts of stuff. But no. There was millions of years ago. But there was a flood. And the proof of it, look, you see fish bones, you see fish, you see it all, yeah. Okay. If you just, because it's really embarrassing now. I'm sorry. It's really embarrassing that people with the aid of technology can see very clearly that things were not millions of years ago, but thousands of years ago. A few thousand years ago. Right? Within our written record. But yet, they want to still persist with this evolution from a monkey and millions of years ago theory and all that stuff. So, Atlantis, yes, Atlantis happened, but it happened from the time after Adam and Eve, from the garden till Noah's flood. And since then, civilization aided by the same people that went underground, trying to rebuild, trying to bring it back to its original glory. And they will, in this decade. And then after that, it'll be a different story. But the other aspect that it could be the pre-flood, not pre-flood of Lucifer. Not Noah's flood, but in Genesis 1-2, that gap theory, it says there was a world before, and basically the same type of trade and commerce that was going on in the world, that goes on in the world today, was going on back in the days before the 6 days of creation. Recreation, I should say, and that's another topic. I don't want to hear them anymore, the 6 days of creation, it's recreation. 6 days, recreation, restoration, whatever you want to call it, but it's not a universal creation. I'm going to keep pounding that into your heads, do you understand? Because it don't make sense that you have factual information and you still want to go living off of garbage. And I don't want to eat garbage. You are what you eat, so don't put garbage in your head. Okay? So, let me get to this video thingy, because I think it was kind of interesting when I was looking at it. Ooh, there is a message. Who messaged me? Perry. Perry. That'll be for later, Perry. I'm working now. Let's see. Much later, please. Uh-oh. There. Okay, here we go. And this guy talking about goats and elves and all that stuff in Hollow Earth. Which one is it? Oh yeah. It's kind of long. I'm not going to play the whole 48 minutes there, and I'm not going to play the whole 58 minutes here. But I'm just going to. And this poor guy. This guy. I need to do something about this poor guy. Yeah. Interesting times. Okay, so here we go. Okay, and I'll try to get to the good parts. So, hang on a second here. Are we good for audio? No.
Is about cognition, or good old crop circles, paranormal ideas about agronomy. So there's the awkward moment in the wheat field. Or archaeology, the pyramids were built using advanced alien knowledge. Very important advice. Or paranormal aspects of zoology. And in fact, they want me to do a skeptics talk next year, so maybe I could do a specific a cryptozoology one or something like that. But what I wanted to talk about today is paranormal aspects in the earth sciences, and there is some overlap in there between the paranormal earth sciences and some other aspects. So in particular here was a poll from I think a couple years ago, so this is the 60-degree mark to give us an orientation. And the highest one here in terms of belief is the percentage of Americans who believe we can influence the physical world via positive thought. And the next one down believed advanced civilizations like Atlantis once existed. And that ties into today's topic.
Whereas, which it did.
Down here we have, only about 28% are confident that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old. So yeah, we're looking at paranormal concepts about the nature of the planet Earth. And we'll start with something that's fairly mundane, and in its initial phases wasn't obviously incorrect. And that's true of some of these. As you'll see in some of these other cases, when the ideas were initially proposed, they were obviously incorrect. But in this case, it wasn't. And this is the story of Atlantis. So Plato is our initial author of the story of Atlantis, and it's actually described in two of the dialogues, in the Critias and the Timaeus, which are two of the later dialogues. There was going to be, scholars are fairly certain he was going to have an end part to the trilogy, and I can't remember the name of which of the people that he was having the dialogue with it would be, but that is known. And it's described in this, and he gives certain characteristics of this place he's describing called Atlantis. He said it existed 9,000 years ago from his time. So that would be what? Add 2.5 millennia to that. It was said to be a large island, larger than Africa plus Asia combined. But keep in mind, the word Africa would describe sort of the northern part of Africa, Libya, basically
Africa
today.
and
Asia would be basically Anatolia.
North America and South America.
Still a sizable landmass. See? But a large
same
island
Pangea that we're talking about from millions of years ago,
normally interpreted as being
happened at the time of Atlantis.
The Rock of Gibraltar and its counterpart in Africa, so outside the Mediterranean. And it's described as an island nation which had conquered the other islands in the Ocean Sea, in the Atlantic, as well as the western and southern part of the Mediterranean lands, as close to Greece as Egypt in the south and Tyrrhenia, Italy, in the north. And specifically, it was opposed by an Athens, which he said existed 9,000 years before his time. That was the great rival of Atlantis, is that Athens existed at that time, an earlier Athens, and that was...
So just to give a recap in the timeline, if we're going with our chronology, from the time of the flood was about 3,600 BC, give or take. Right, so that's some 5,500 years ago. And from the time before the flood from the time of, let's say Adam and Eve till the flood, was some 1,600 years, to give a rough estimate. So some 6,000 years of human history. So everything that we know about our human history, everything that we know about it, happened within those 6,000 years. So when they're referring to things that are, something, we discovered 9,000 years ago, or 12,000 years ago, or 15,000 years ago, or whatever it is, you have to take it in the context that they're using inaccurate dating methods that cannot guarantee that the dates they're getting are accurate and valid. So the only thing you can go from is what's logical, and what's logical is that we only have we only have traces and proof of our type of humanity being around for some few thousand years. That's it, right? Given, tracing everything back to, because look, if we're around for thousands of years before, there'll be hundreds of billions of people on the planet today, okay? So we'll leave it at that. Right, so everything that refers to millions of years ago, bring that into context. No, it happened within the past 5,000 years. Okay, Ice Age, hundreds of thousands of years ago, or 12,000 years ago? No, the Ice Age happened right after the flood, some 5,500 years ago. And then from there on, and we'll continue.
Sort of the point of the story is Athens, standing alone, defeated them and liberated the Mediterranean from the rule of the Atlanteans. And then there was a huge cataclysm, and in a day and a night, the entire Athenian army was swallowed up by the earth, and the land of Atlantis sank beneath the waves.
Noah's flood.
That's the story, or those are the major parts of the story.
Tectonic activity.
Now, people will talk about the myth of Atlantis, but it's important to point out this is not a myth. It is not coming out of the corpus of common beliefs in traditional Greek mythology. It is not a legend. There aren't stories of a particular hero and his deeds. And importantly, there is not a single mention of Atlantis prior to the existence of Plato. Not a single one. Despite the fact we have historians in Greek literature who were writing about the history of the world prior to that. They're not mentioning it. So no mention prior to Plato. We don't see it in Greek histories. We don't see it in Egyptian histories, despite the fact in the Critias and the Timaeus, Plato says that this story was transmitted, and he tells a series of people, including Solon the Great, who heard it from Egyptian priests. But the Egyptian records don't talk about it. The Babylonian literature doesn't talk about it.
I
and in fact,
differ.
This is Plato being Plato. He's using it as a case study. And he's using it as, I don't know if allegory, allegory is not a bad word for this kind, an allegory for how, he says specifically, wouldn't it be interesting to see how an ideal state would act against an overwhelming power? And then he goes, and then one of his, in this story, either Critias or Timaeus says, you know, my father heard a story from his grandfather who heard a story that Athens existed 9,000 years ago in, amazing coincidence, the ideal state you're describing.
Okay, and just to put that into context, those stories came from Noah's 3 sons, right? If we think back to the time of Abraham, his father Terah, what was he? He was basically a wizard, if you will, an idolater. He was a sorcerer, whatever you want to call it. The same, whatever you call it, the ancient wise guys that, tell the kings and queens to do whatever back in this time that this guy's talking about. Well, this is pretty much what Abraham's father knew, and that was some 4,000 years ago. Right, and we have evidence that back then civilization was not as Flintstone-ish as you would think. Okay, so the arts of knowledge of sciences that existed in the pre-flood world had carried over, made its way through Mesopotamia, because at the time of Abraham now you got to realize that Mesopotamia and Egypt had already been established. And all their religious priestly practices, basically the use of psychedelics and whatever else. And if you pay attention to the stories of how humans meet these divine beings in any cultural religious literature, especially in Hindu religion, you'll see that, it's not just us humans helping us out by ourselves. Somehow, some way, we get carried away by some enchanted being and end up in some enchanted place or the other. Let me see if I could speed things up a little bit here, because these guys go. Hang on a second. What's he talking about here? Oh yeah, he's talking about. Yeah, hang on. I'll play this part and then I'll skip over.
Nonfiction and fiction writers picked up on this. And so the antediluvian world actually was very influential, inspired a lot of later people. The Theosophists, I'll talk about the Theosophists in a bit. They are a religious movement of the late 19th, early 20th century. Edgar Allan Poe refers to this. I didn't mention it, but Jules Verne. Jules Verne his view of Atlantis comes in part from this. The psychic Edward Casey, his vision of Atlantis is really a Donnelly version. Donovan, the Donovan song of Atlantis was basically a Donnelly version of Atlantis, and it inspired someone near and dear to the hearts of a lot of us here, J.R.R. Tolkien and the story of Numenor. Numenor itself, remember, Numenor after the fall is known in, is it Kenya or Sindarin as Atalante, the Downfallen. There was no hiding it. Tolkien intended Numenor to have been his Atlantis myth, and it's what was misremembered by later people as Atlantis. And it's Donnelly's Atlantis in many ways. Numenor is the founder of high civilization among men around the world. And they themselves carrying on the tradition of the First Age elves, but spreading it to savage people around the world. Eventually, though, Numenor collapsing, but having found many colonies, of which Gondor and Arnor were two of the last. They had founded many other colonies. If you actually get into the Silmarillion and the Akallabeth primarily, there were many other colonies in all the continents of the world that the Numenorians had founded, but all of them, other than Gondor and Arnor, eventually fell into darkness, as Atlantis itself, as Numenor itself did, and the Valar, they say, hey, boss, we're not dealing with this anymore, and Eru and God, knocks Numenor off the face of the earth and decides, hey, this whole flat earth is a bad idea, let's make it a sphere. So people have been trying to place where Atlantis went throughout history. This is actually from an early modern work by Rubek, a Swedish author who amazingly decided it was in Sweden. But people had said, okay, well, maybe beyond the Pillars of Heracles doesn't mean what the words actually say they mean. So maybe it's actually within the Mediterranean. And so people have spotted it at various locations here, or other people, yes, it's outside the Pillars, but maybe it's other spots around the world, in the New World, or Antarctica, or Sweden, and so forth.
When these two were together, it could have been right here.
A common trope.
I don't want to hear about Santorini. Hang on a second.
In late 20...
Can I get out of this? And can I go back? Okay, there was that. And then this part. Let me go to this Agartha stuff. This is somewhat relevant.
And the Dalai Lama in particular.
Dude, I'm freaking fire at this!
Introducing the Land Rover Defender.
Just the thing for those little everyday trips.
Collided into Eurasia,
Here we go.
where it remains to this day. A race of godlike people with strange powers.
Here we go. Let's go through this.
In India, a truly ancient legend that predates the Hindu religion tells of a large island of unparalleled beauty that long ago lay in the center of a vast Central Asian sea, just north of the
Atlantis.
modern-day Himalayas. A race of godlike people with strange powers lived isolated on the island, uncommunicating with the outside world, except through a number of deep tunnels, which stretched out in all directions, each hundreds or thousands of miles long, burrowing underneath whole continents and even oceans. On this isolated island, society flourished at an extraordinary rate. Science and the
Okay,
arts
where's the
developed
proof
peacefully,
of that? I shall show you the proof of that.
never threatened.
The proof of that is right here. Watch. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is a flesh being. Yet his days shall be 120 years, meaning that from that time it took 120 years, right, before Noah became aware of what was going to happen till the flood happened. And there were giants, not just physical giants, but also intellectual giants in the earth in those days, and also after that. And that's where we get back to the story of all these guys. The after that. See? What they had before, they made it again. And the next time you go to Hindu temple, you're doing it again too. Ain't that fun? Not just Hindu temple, but every single religion. Even every one of you that go to church on Sunday. Every one of you that take that mass. Le God's Christ et son sang, merci, comme ça, de même. Ok, c'est fait, merci, bonsoir. Yep, that's all dating back from the days of Atlantis. Why? Because the beings that were being worshipped then are the same beings that are being worshipped today by all of y'all that are not aware that this is what the truth of the nature of our world is. So you see, when the giants were in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God, so these divine or semi-divine or not-so-divine beings, mingled with humanity and bare offspring and became all the mighty men of which were old men of renown. So all the stories you know about Thor and Odin and Vishnu and Krishna and what's that other one there? Kali Yuga, whatever. Bozo the Clown. All that comes back to this. That's
threatened by wars or epidemics, remaining purposefully hidden to protect their wealth of knowledge from the calamities that habitually plagued their brothers and sisters in the outside world. But a tremendous force was soon to befall the earth, and even this utopia was doomed to destruction if they stayed their place. Perhaps a great flood, or an invading force of epic proportions. The exact reason is not known. But the story tells that the people of the island escaped by moving their society into those tunnels and rebuilding their civilization
and
entirely underground.
After that.
No longer an island, but a subterranean kingdom, leaving no trace on the surface but the entrances to their tunnels, most caved in over thousands of years.
So, I'm going to put the link here so you guys could take a look at that in your own time. Again, I don't want to be going through all that the whole time, but I felt it was interesting, so here's one. And I'll go and grab the other link of went too far. Which one were you? This guy. Okay.
Late 20th century, or mid to late 20th century discussions is that it is actually supposed to represent Thera, or we now call it Santorini, an island in the Mediterranean, which went foom. The central core of the volcano, you can see it right there.
Okay.
These are the edges of the caldera.
Yeah, all interesting stuff that you could take a look at later. So, I guess what I will do is I will continue my Sunday social. I will, okay, go through this real fast. And I'm starting to get hungry, so, is there anything interesting from anyone? Who's that? Oh. Karen Carpenter? Oh, yeah. I don't know if she played drums. Okay. Anything? Sure, okay, doesn't look like there's anything happening. So, I guess I'll call this a day.